one of the things that you often talk about in your content is the connection between neurodivergence and festivals and the rave scene and EDM in particular. Can you share the top insights that really stand out to you around that? How did you get into that particular vein of research?
I think because I'm diagnosed ADHD. So again, it's just trying to figure out and understand why things happen, especially with music. I would realize, especially with EDM music, for instance, let's rewind a little bit. This is my ADHD brain getting off track and wanting to jump topics here. So I have to like cool it back. There came a point in my life where I started to develop panic attacks, and I started to get these panic attacks while driving. So what happened was I was on a highway. I ended up getting a panic attack while I was driving on a highway and completely like freaked out. And then because of the pandemic, it helped me to develop a fear of driving, and I just avoided it. And I avoided it and I avoided it for years. And then I went through therapy and started to expose myself to driving on highways again. And I'm searching for everything like what helps me, what's helping my brain, what's helping my brain. And when I would put on EDM music, I don't know what it was, but I was like, it's comforting to me. And it was the first time that I was able to realize that there's something comforting happening to my brain. Meanwhile, I'm in this state of anxiety and panic. And then especially with the ADHD, that's where I started to dig a little deeper. And I'm like, what am I feeling when this is happening? And I think I have a video about it. A Tin Liquor song came on, and I was listening to the song as I was driving, and it had this like fast paced rhythm and then a really slow one. And it was almost like entertaining my brain in two different ways. The fast beat was really like entertaining and keeping up with my thought process, but the smoothest was like this constant that helped me to stay grounded and level. And I'm like, I feel like it's just keeping my brain level in a sense that I can't do normally with coping with anxiety, with coping with distraction and things like that. So that's what kind of sent me down the rabbit hole of figuring out, why does this feel good for my brain in these situations?
Yeah, the way you described it, I almost started feeling in my own head like it was getting a massage, right? It's like there's like this
Yeah.
slower sensation that moves through it, and there's this other faster one that's like coming up, and it's kind of almost helping things to relax and chill out, but for your brain, right, rather than for your body. You mentioned starting to like kind of become curious, okay, what's actually going on? So as best as you understand, and for everybody out there, you're not a medical person, you're not anything, but you're a human being
Yeah.
looking at the stuff and figuring it out as best you can. Like, as far as you know, like what is going on with the brain there?
I think my brain requires a lot of high stimulation. That's one thing that I could think of is I like that stimulation. I think that's why sometimes, I want to speak fast or I have a lot that I want to say. It's this fast moving pace. So that's the best I can correlate it is, having that predictable beat, but yet fast paced beat kind of helps to alleviate some of that. I'm sure a medical professional would do that way better than I could.
No, you're good. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious though, is that stuff that you have like kind of picked up, or is that just kind of like your own personal like hypothesis from what you've experienced?
I think it starts from my own experience, but then it sends me down the rabbit hole of research. And especially in a lot of the content that I'm putting out now, I wanted to draw from my personal experience, but I definitely want to get into the research of it, going like, okay, well, what has been researched? Are there any peer-reviewed journal articles on this? And there's some, but not as much as I would hope for. So I'm really hoping that they continue to do more research with this because I think it's so fascinating.
Yeah. Is there anything that you particularly have found that's excited you from what you found in the research at all?
I'm thinking back. This is where I'm drawing a blank. Nothing's like
That's okay.
popping out.
That's okay. The other one that I would go with is like, is there an area that you would like if you could be like, hey, I want to send $1 million magically to like research like this thing with regards to like EDM and brains or neurodivergent people? Like, is there like a thing that you would be like, I think we should definitely look at this? Like, what would that be?
I think, well, initially, I would love to understand what we talked about earlier, that group connectedness, and like how come it works within a festival environment, but not outside in the real world, or more so, how can we get that to transfer into the real world, into everyday settings? And that's one thing I think that's where I'm moving towards, because even when you go to a festival, it's different. Like you have people walking up to you and giving you tiny hands. You have like, you can't explain the little nuances that happen there, and they don't happen in everyday life. So with me, I was like, I'm gonna trying to bring this stuff to everyday life. Why does it have to only happen at festivals? Why does it only have to happen there? And I think that's
I agree.
me trying to make an attempt to pull some of that out, because I'm like, I know it's possible there. Why can't it be possible at my job or in the grocery store, these different places?
Yeah, I completely agree because something I think about often, and I think often the most important piece is simply the belief that it can, right? Because
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of people where they're like, oh, well, this is just at a festival. And it's like, well, that's like that belief that you're containing
Hmm.
that. And like, yeah, you probably won't be as surrounded by quite as much love and freedom and interconnectedness, and like you're not dancing all the time. You gotta go to work, you gotta go make your money, you gotta do the things. You can't necessarily wear just fishnets and like a thong and, your
Yeah.
bralette out in like public all the time, right? There are, exceptions with society, and, there are still these things that you can take with you, right? And if you're aware of them, you can build upon them and expand them. The other piece that stood out for me is I went to Burning Man for the first time last year. And because I think, in part, because of how visceral that experience is, because you're there for a week or 2 weeks, depending on how long you're there for, and you're really immersed into like not even just a festival, but like this whole world for a period of time. I noticed for myself when I came back that it was like a different level of nervous system integration where it was like, this is what it's like to live this way for 2 weeks, to really be in flow for a solid 2 weeks, and what that is like. That when I came back to my life, not even really on a conscious level, but on a nervous system level for the first time, it was like, it was very clear that certain things were in alignment with my life and certain things were not. And it was like
Oh,
impossible for me to like not have that, to not be in that alignment where I felt off, right? It was like, this is something that's like not working anymore, and I've got to change something about this because I know what's possible, and I can integrate that in my life. And I find people, you know, ravers are like this too, but I would say even more so with burners. I find that it's like those people seem so emotionally and spiritually advanced in a different way, where it's like, oh, it's like you've gone to this so much that you do live your life in a lot of ways as if it was Burning Man. And maybe you're not in the full on costume all the time, but you have that level of expression that is a deeper level of your authenticity, and you're practicing these different principles that are really showcasing what, Burning Man or these different other events are.
oh man. And I'm always so hesitant to call Burning Man even a festival, and I've never
I
been,
know,
and I
I'm the
wanna
same
go
way.
so bad. But I'm like, "Okay, that's not a festival, that's like a community, a world that they build in the middle of nowhere."